Hey, what's going on everyone? Mighty here with another vlog vid. I'm really excited for today's video because finally we're doing an epic new gaming PC build. This isn't a guide or tutorial or anything, just kind of a quick montage I suppose. All the parts you see will be affiliate linked in the description if you're interested. Now let's jump right in. As you can see, we'll be using the Thermaltake Core P3 Snow Edition case. I'm sure you've seen plenty of other builds on Insta and such with this case, but I love it and I couldn't help myself. Additionally, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I needed something that I could wall mount, and the Core P3 couldn't have been more perfect for this, as it is quite versatile. We'll be using the MEG Z390 Ace Mobile for this build. I got this particular motherboard used like new off Amazon for about $185 a little while back. As far as I know at this particular time it is unavailable on Amazon unfortunately, however on Newegg it goes for $434 brand new, which is pretty absurd if you ask me. In fact, you get the Z490 version of the Ace on Amazon for about $398 brand new right now. So that said, I definitely recommend taking a different route if you're looking for a well-priced high-end motherboard for an 8th or 9th gen Intel build, or consider going for a 10th gen Intel CPU instead. For our build, we'll be using Corsair's Vengeance LPX 2x8GB RAM kit with a clock speed of 3200 MHz. For our CPU, we're using a i9-9900K, which I purchased right before Intel discontinued the dodecahedron packaging, so I'm happy about that. I bought it for $448 on Amazon, but at the moment it's going for $390. Obviously, the i9 isn't top dog anymore, but honestly, it still makes me a little giddy knowing that I got my hands on one, so needless to mention, I was really excited to finally install it. I have to say, installing the CPU is probably one of the most satisfying parts of building a PC in my opinion. Of course, it could be equally daunting for those who may still be new to PC building. Even still, I was definitely more cautious than usual to be sure I put the CPU in the correct orientation before closing the bracket. Pop goes the socket cover as we secure our new processor into place. For storage, we have a Sabrent Rocket 2280 512GB M.2 for our C drive, which I purchased this for $60 off of Amazon. However, it currently goes for around $70. And to store our games, we have a 2048GB or 2TB Intel SSD 6 M.2, which was $188 at the time, but currently goes for $239. Needless to say, all of these pricings are subject to change. Our Ace motherboard comes with a heat spreader for the bottom M.2 slot, so I'll be using it for our game drive at least for now, as I'm not sure which M.2 drive will take better advantage of the extra cooling performance. Here you can see me apply thermal paste, which is actually a mistake as you'll see later because we are using an AIO for this build, which has pre-applied thermal paste already. Now we are putting the motherboard standoffs on. It's important to check if your case comes with the standoffs pre-attached because you may have to screw them in yourself, and if you forgot to, then the soldered ends on the backside of the motherboard may ground against the case, causing the motherboard to short. I've seen a few reviews for this case complaining about the included standoffs and how they were a pain or don't fit. For me, they fit, but they were a bit of a pain to screw in. I used my fingers to start and went back through with a pair of pliers to tighten them up just a bit more. And now we can mount the motherboard. Well, at least I thought so. We began unboxing the AIO and prepping it to be mounted. I chose the Deepcool Captain 360X, which cost me $160 off Amazon, of course. Unfortunately, it is currently unavailable on Amazon, but you could pick up the Castle 360EX version for the same price, or currently you can get the Captain 360X for $120 off of Newegg if you act fast. I quickly checked to see how well the whites match the case. They are close enough, though the fans are a tad off-white. It was at this moment I noticed the pre-applied thermal paste and began cleaning off the thermal paste I had applied earlier. I began opening up the mounting hardware and I quickly realized my fateful blunder of prematurely mounting the motherboard before putting the back plate on for the CPU cooler. I swear I do this every time, will I ever learn. Although in hindsight, I think if I had the rear panel off and the two drive bays out, I could have put the back plate on without removing the motherboard, but it's quite too late for that. So we take the motherboard back off and attach the back plate, which of course, even after looking at the instructions for, I still managed to get wrong the first time. I'd say it was a quick fix, but it took my monkey brain embarrassingly long to figure out which side and which set of holes I was supposed to use. I'm just glad the power of editing exists. I will say I greatly appreciate Deepcool's backplate as the screws kinda stick in and stay when you flip it over, making it quick and easy to assemble the mounting hardware. Again, assuming you actually know what you're doing, or you can read instructions, unlike myself. So I assembled the mounting hardware and grabbed the block to mount it, but I realized the block should be oriented 90 degrees counterclockwise relative to the orientation I initially chose. which I'm pretty sure this was Deepcool's intended orientation for the block in the first place, but I was just being stupid and stubborn. In my defense, I've never done a build with an AIO before. So after we turn the brackets horizontally, we could finally mount the block over our CPU. Quickly remounting the motherboard, I then attempt mounting the radiator, which honestly for me at least was a huge pain in the butt. I set the fans on the radiator, orienting them so that the power cables travel the shortest and cleanest route, and begin trying to screw them in. But for some reason, the screws won't take, and after fiddling with it for a bit, I decided to mount the radiator first. But I realized I needed to take the rear panel off to mount the radiator anyways, which I then attempt with little success, as once again my unobservant monkey brain fails to see that I need to remove the wall mounting hardware from the back of the case in order to take off the rear panel. This case comes with many unique challenges compared to other cases, as you may have noticed, many of which I could have avoided. Yet again, in hindsight, something that can make using this case easier is attaching the legs to the case before you start the build, whether you plan on using them for the finished build or not. This allows you to stand the case up, instead of doing what my monkey butt is about to do. Having to mount the radiator from underneath like this made it more of a pain than it probably would have been otherwise, but I suppose better me being dumb so you don't have to. Though, to be honest, doing things the hard way is kind of my thing. I was also being kind of picky, especially about the small gap in the case visible right below the radiator, and this turned out to be far more time consuming than it needed to be. In fact, this took up most of my recording, but we finally get the radiator and all the fans mounted, and finally we can move on to the PSU. I went with a white Corsair RMX series power supply, which as you can see is a 850 watt, which I got from Amazon once again for $134, which apparently not only the listing, but the entire page the listing was on no longer exists. Another Amazon listing for the PSU is priced at an insane $270, though you may be able to find more appropriate pricing elsewhere. And of course, because everything else has gone so smoothly, we nonchalantly toss aside the important information regarding our PSU. The P3 case we're using allows two different orientations for mounting the PSU, the current of which I'm demonstrating is only possible with ITX and, if I'm not mistaken, micro ATX form factor motherboards. I would have loved to mount the PSU in this orientation, however we have a standard ATX board unfortunately. The P3 case comes with 3 PSU brackets, of which only 2 are to be used at a time. The rear bracket is to be used for either orientation, while only one or the other front brackets will be used. I stubbornly attempt to see how hard it would be to make my preferred orientation work with an ATX board, but decided it's not worth the trouble, and I begin mounting it the other way. Now that we are ready to start running cables soon, at this point I finally decide to mount the feet for the case to make cable management easier. Before I run the cables, I assembled the vertical PCIe bracket, which will allow us to vertically mount our GPU. This case includes the riser cable necessary to do this. I finished mounting the bracket onto the case and installing the riser cable before mounting our MSI Gaming X RTX 2070. I bought this as an upgrade from my first PC a while back for about $450 off of Newegg. Although GPU pricing is pretty wonky right now, especially due to an increase in crypto mining and 30 series scalpers. And now it's time to run the cables, which Corsair has included in this neat little bag. Let's do some cable management. now, our gorgeous little piece of art is complete. I waited so long for this moment, and I hope I could share at least a little bit of my excitement with you guys. In total, this epic PC build costed me $1,839.22 before tax. I spent a long time collecting parts for it, and now I can't believe it's finally complete. We won't be benchmarking it in this video, however. Next episode, we will be mounting it and setting up all the cables as we integrate it into our setup. So after that is complete, we'll give it a benchmark and compare it to our media PC. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did and you want to see more PC builds in the future, give this vid a like, and if you want to be a Chad and you're interested in any of the hardware used in this build, hop on down to the description and you can use the Amazon affiliate links to help support me and more builds in the future. Or you can also support me on Patreon instead. If you want to see more content, check out my channel and hit that sub button, or you can also check me out on Twitch as I've recently started streaming on Mondays. If you prefer, you can also catch those same streams on YouTube. Let me know what you guys think, or ask me any questions you have in the comments. But with that, I hope everyone has a fantastic day.